The Islamophobia industry is quick to whine and complain at every opportunity, as everybody knows, and lately they've been whining and complaining about what they call negative coverage of Islam in the British media, by which they mean truthful coverage, although in truth we don't get nearly enough of that. For example, when it was revealed recently that there's been a large increase in so-called honour violence, where Muslim women are brutalised and murdered by members of their own family, nowhere in the BBC report did it mention the one crucial ingredient, the religion of peace. This salient piece of information was carefully airbrushed out, as if to imply that this is a British phenomenon, as if society as a whole is to blame. Similarly, we're always hearing about organised gangs of Muslim men exploiting and raping underage girls. Yet the media never refer to these men by the religion whose misogynistic values have shaped their view of women, preferring instead to label them Asians, which is a gross slander on Hindus and Sikhs who don't engage in this kind of behaviour, yet who are tarred with the same brush by cowardly and dishonest journalists afraid to offend the whining, oversensitive professional victims of Islam. People often say, well, the bad things about Islam are cultural, they're not religious. Really? What happens in Saudi Arabia isn't culture, it's pure religion, it's pure Islam, and it's pure insanity. We're talking about a country run with an iron fist by a handful of brutal, conservative, religious clerics. A country where they execute people for witchcraft, where they execute gay people and treat women as a subhuman species, and where gangs of fanatical, scripture-sodden ignoramuses are allowed to roam the streets enforcing Sharia with medieval rigour. The religion is the problem, not the culture. The problem with Iran is the religion, not the culture. Iranians are not Arabs, but they've been conquered by an alien Arab religion, and now their country's entire focus is on an Arab situation, Palestine, not an Iranian one. This is because the religious fanatics who control Iran, against the wishes of its people, are insane. Their minds are so pickled by their barbaric religion, and they're so obsessed with killing Jews, they're determined to force a nuclear showdown. They're driven by powerful apocalyptic religious delusions which they intend to act upon the first chance they get. They're of the same mentality as the religious fanatics who controlled Europe hundreds of years ago. And if those people had had nuclear weapons, none of us would be here now. Many of the Muslims here in Britain, including the gangs of child rapists, all of them, come from Pakistan, where the culture is shaped by the religion and blasphemy is a capital offence. It's what the religion demands and the culture does what it's told, otherwise the religion will mobilise a mob of illiterate savages to riot in the streets, and scores, if not hundreds of people are likely to be killed. The religion is the problem, not the culture. The culture isn't great by any means, but without the religion it would be a damn sight better. And we in Britain are busy importing that religion wholesale into our society, where it's about as welcome as the Norman invasion, despite all the platitudes and lies we hear from politicians about tolerance and respect and community cohesion, because people have learned, as they've learned everywhere in the West, that this is far more than just a religion. It's an invasive, political, supremacist ideology that exploits religious freedom and cultural guilt to impose itself with constant demands for special treatment, always backed by the implicit threat of conflict and violence. In other words, through cultural terrorism. So whether it's prayer rooms crowbarred into the workplace where they don't belong, Muslims allowed to pray in the streets and block traffic, medical staff allowed to ignore hygiene rules, the police turning a blind eye to genital mutilation, universities letting jihadists recruit on campus, Sharia courts dehumanising women, or the imposition of halal-only food on the entire population without their knowledge or consent, society, it seems, must always bow to the unreasonable demands of Islam, and anyone who dares to object is either vilified as a racist or openly threatened with violence. This is what the media should be saying about Islam if journalists had the guts to do their job and tell the truth, because it is the truth and everybody knows it's the truth. And you can call me a racist for saying so if you want to, and a hate monger and a bigot and all the rest of it. Go through the card, be my guest. But when you finally run out of names, it will still be the truth. Sorry about that. Thanks to our moral cowardice, we now have hundreds of unregulated madrasas in Britain teaching tens of thousands of children to despise the culture they live in. That bodes well for the future of community cohesion, doesn't it? A madrasa, in case you didn't know, is an Islamic school. In other words, it's the kind of place where you're likely to come out even more ignorant than when you went in. And just last month we had a good example of the kind of mentality these places encourage when 3 Muslim men were convicted of stirring up hatred by passing out leaflets calling for gay people to be executed. They pleaded guilty by all accounts, but to my mind it would have been more accurate and more honest if they'd pleaded insanity. One of them said he did it because he wants to improve society. Well, there's a simple way for him to do that. Emigrate and take all his bigoted, fuzzy-faced friends with him. The prosecution argued that the leaflets were not educational, when in fact they were extremely educational, in that they plainly stated what Islam actually teaches and not what its mealy-mouthed apologists would like to pretend it teaches. Islam does call for the death penalty for homosexuality. It's a fact. And in countries where it's allowed to call the shots, they enthusiastically carry it out. Thanks to unwanted mass Islamic immigration, there are parts of Europe today where if you make it known that you're gay, or Jewish for that matter, you are virtually asking to be physically attacked. It's an indisputable fact that the more Muslims there are in a society, not Asians, Muslims, the less safe it's likely to be for gay people, or Jews, or women, or anyone attempting to exercise their fundamental right to freedom of speech. So where exactly is all the positive coverage of this wretched religion supposed to come from? A religion that routinely responds to the slightest criticism by feigning a ludicrous knee-jerk sensitivity, when its own scripture is a handbook of insensitivity, brutality, and social division. Slay the infidel wherever you find him. Execute gay people, murder apostates, subjugate women, wipe out the Jews. Such an ideology has no claim on sensitivity, and the opinions of those who push it should be given less consideration than other people's, not more. Peace.